So sorry about that. Oh boy, the call's being recorded.
Oh yeah, sorry, I record
My
all my
phone just
lessons.
no problem. You know, trying to think of something that would be really helpful. Be clear and concise in what you're saying. Okay. And I'm going to tell you this now, and a lot of controllers will be jackasses about it. But if you've got a question, ask them. Ask them again. Make them clarify it. I can remember a guy who wanted me to clarify it. It was a good thing he did because I had I had not wrapped myself around what he exactly wanted. Once I figured it out between us, everything went very smoothly. But do not hesitate to say again. If say again all, say again some. You know, are you out of your damn mind? Is probably not good phraseology.
Is there, speaking of non-standard phraseology, is there a limit, let's say, to what pilots can say? So, for example, if we get stuck on the radio and we don't know how to answer, would it be okay if we just every now and then resort to standard English?
I think that would be a good thing. I always preferred that rather than when you're sitting there searching for what to say, look, I forgot what I need to say, or I'm not sure about the phraseology. Here's what I want to do, and why am I flying upside down? It's that kind of thing. But do not hesitate to use standard English either.
Okay.
If it's going to save your, I'm sorry, I was about to say something, something very American there.
Please go ahead. That's why we're here. We want to learn. We want to learn the very American ways.
Okay, you're not supposed to say this on the radio, but if it's to save your ass, then say what you've got to say. I mean, one thing I refuse to do as a controller, and I did it once, and it taught me that lesson forever. Don't get into a butt kicking contest with a pilot, and don't get into a butt kicking contest with a controller, because stay as calm as you can. Now, in an emergency situation, nobody's expecting you to light a cigarette and say, "So how's it going this week?" Not that at all. If you've got don't hesitate. If you find yourself in a situation that's got you concerned, don't hesitate to say, "Look, I am in a bind here. I need help." And if the controller says, "Are you calling for a mayday?" Call it. If you feel it's important enough, call it, because that will make everybody work for you. If you have somebody who's a jerk about it, he'll hear about it later. It never bothered me to have somebody start calling mayday. The biggest thing is don't have your thumb down on the transmit key.
Good one. Good one.
And it's so easy to do. But kind of watch what you're doing with that. Is any of this helping you, or do I just sound like I'm full of it?
No, it makes sense. It makes total sense, David. Your information is very valuable to us. Is there any advice that you could give a pilot whose English is a second language, and how to overcome this blockage on the radio when trying to translate from one language to the other? And
sometimes the only thing you can do is work your way through it. Like, I don't expect somebody who's a native Spanish speaker and come to English as a second or third language to be able to know it all. If you'd like to hear Spanish butchered, just ask me something, and I used to live on the Texas-Mexico border, and I never learned a word of Spanish. So I'm catching up with it now, and it's mostly like, por favor.
I guess it's really good for us to put a face to a controller, to humanize a controller, because we just imagine. Oh, I'm gonna speak from my end. I just imagine this figure, that is talking on the radio and giving me instructions, and but now that I see that it's just a human, another person talking to another person, that brings the stress way down.
Oh, exactly. And besides, being a controller, and since most of us are government employees, we're barely human anyway. But yeah, I mean, the more you, what I used to like about working in small facilities was that you'd actually meet the pilots and you get to know the pilots and they get to know you. They get to know what you could do. And you know, you're supposed to have a certain degree of separation and all that kind of thing. Well, that's all fine and good. But if I've got somebody who's up and he's caught above the clouds and he's scared to death, or she's scared to death, or it's scared to death, um, you know, talk to me. I will talk to you any way you need to hear it. In fact, I very rarely in the 35 years did I ever yell at somebody on a radio, because if they're calling with a problem, screaming at them doesn't make it go away. It's like screaming at your dog. You know, I mean, not that you guys are dogs,
What
but
what makes a good pilot on the radio?
one who's got a sense of what he's supposed to be doing. Yeah. One who's got a clear vision of what he wants. One who's going, when you tell him, you know, at this point, turn left heading such and such, there's usually a reason for it. And don't tell me you're looking at your GPS, because sometimes, as you know from GPS in your car, it'll put you on another planet. But yeah, GPS is a nice tool, but make sure, you know what I would suggest you do, and this has almost nothing to do with talking to me or anything like that. Plot it out on a regular chart what you're going to do. Then see what, you know. Then use your GPS as a supplement, not as the world one and only thing.
Mhm.
In the movies, GPS works great all the time. In real life, it's like, I think my battery died. What am I going to do now?
So clear intentions, right?
Clear intentions, and if the controller asks you to say again, I would always, whenever I would ask for say again, I'd say again slowly, particularly if you're a non-English, non-native speaker, so I can listen to the timbre of your voice. Because usually we've got on a nice headset and all this kind of thing, and and generally stoked up with coffee. So
Question. Let me ask that question in another way. What makes a good student pilot on the radio?
okay, a couple things actually. One, make sure that you've paid attention to your instructor, because they're not being paid to let you guess. Okay. Secondly, do not hesitate to ask for help, either from the instructor, or if you're solo, or from the controller. If you say, I'm not entirely sure about this, if the guy's a jerk, he'll jerk you around. If he's not, and that'll make the 90% of us, we will help you out any way we can, because we don't want you getting hurt, particularly on our initials.
Right.
But over and above that, it's the more we work together, and the more you guys make it very clear what your intentions are, what you want to do, and what you need to do, makes my job so much easier. If I'm going to go see Mama for Thanksgiving, that really doesn't help me at all. But if you're saying, I'm here, my last place I departed was so and so. I departed from there about 20 minutes ago on a heading of whatever. You've given the guy on the radio everything he needs, because they'll be, if he's looking at you on radar, he'll be able to pop you right now.
What happens if I make a mistake in my communications and I'm not experienced enough to figure it out on time?
Okay. If you're not experienced enough on time, say, I made an error, I need a correction. That's it.
Okay. And if I just get stuck and I don't speak back, like if you give me a clearance and I block and I can't give it to you straight away.
Well, if I've given you a clearance, I'll wait long enough for you to give me a readback. And if you're given a readback and it's not completely right, and say, we'll go through this again, because that clearance is your ass.
Yeah.
And so get a clearance, And you know, I used to make pilots read it back, and when they wouldn't read it back, I just like, okay. And I would always put for the tape, pilot did not read it back, and it makes me sound like a jerk, but it's your life,
Yeah.
because if something goes wrong, you want to be able to say, look, man, I did everything by the book. And there'll be people to tell you they do everything that by the book, and that's fine. Just, I know where the book is too, but sometimes I take it off the shelf and read it.
What is something you wished that pilots would stop saying on the radio?
Their girlfriend is no. There's a lot of things. Don't put a lot of superfluous stuff. Okay, Tippy. Another thing heard from my dog Tippy, who has heretofore has been sleeping through people tearing down the house next door. Now she wakes up. But don't if you're not in a tight controlled situation like around an airport or something like that, keep it short, keep it direct. Don't go into anything superfluous. Now, if you've got something you want to know, like for instance, you want to know about an FBO. Does Joe's FBO still work there? 9 times out of 10, they can tell you. If not, they'll get somebody that can.
Okay.
And always be direct in what you want. Don't hint around. I mean, I'm not a mind reader. In fact, I could barely have a mind I can read. I'm trying to think.
Can you give me
So
an example of a time when you had like a student pilot? Can I hear what that would sound like from your end?
okay, with my what I do is with a student pilot, I'll sit and I will say, okay, Cessna 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, DCA tower, DCA radio, or whatever. Um, you know, say your intentions. Say what and if the guy's a student, I want to know
Right.
because because my whole attitude changes completely if I'm dealing with a student. And,
And as a student, if you ask me for my intentions and I say requesting blah blah blah, or if I say I would like to blah blah blah, does it make a difference to you?
yeah, because if you say, listen, I need to cross a certain section of airspace, you know, a lot of times, like for instance, you've got places with big TFRs like the Washington D.C. area where you've got restricted areas and all that, and you say, I want to cross this, and said that enable that. Let me set you up on another heading and this kind of thing. Now I don't know if you got that in Spain or not.
Yeah.
I imagine that you do. It's an ICAO thing. By the way, never ever fly over the White House.
We'll try. Did you get that one, Humberto? That's important.
Oh,
I'm wondering if maybe Humberto has some questions for you.
sure, hit
Well,
me.
well, I think you covered it already. Well, I was just gonna ask, what makes a pilot easy to work with? But
What makes a pilot easy to work with?
yeah,
Know what you want, or can at least describe it. Okay.
okay.
And if we describe it with non-operational English,
If that's
does it make a
if
difference?
that's what if the guy gives you a hard time about it, tell him I'm not conversant with it, or something
Mhm.
like that, or I'm not sure about it. Especially if you're dealing with an American controller or something like that, we're pretty good about bending the phraseology. We'll come back and we'll give you the right phraseology and all that kind of thing, so you'll know it, you'll hear it. But we're not, I don't know if anybody in my time in the field, somebody, jumping or jumping somebody's butt about being non-standard, because you have to remember, and this is what I'm saying, I don't expect students to know every little thing about the air traffic system. I do expect them is to pay attention, be clear, be concise, If you need anything further, say so. I mean, if you say I'm having a hard time following you, I'll say again slowly. And you'll get some guys that'll be stupid. God damn, what is it? I'm sorry, I've got this construction or destruction team next door, and it's just been crazy all day. My poor little dog has not been a happy camper. Dave has not been a happy camper because at one point they tossed a chunk of concrete into something and made my whole house shake. Maybe I ought to get my house.
Can I ask you a question, David?
Yeah.
No, in a good way. Why do you guys talk so fast? What's with that?
That's a good question.
Because we're jerks. No, seriously. Sometimes in certain, like in Atlanta, they talk so damn fast. I don't think they understand each other. Because it is the world's busiest airport. But if you say I've got to, I didn't get your control instruction, and the guy sits there and says, it keeps on rapping away. He's not helping you, and he's sure as hell not going to help himself if there's an incident. I used to slow it down as best as I could. There were some times when you got in a hell of a hurry, but if you knew the pilot or if you understood what their capabilities were, that's not a problem. But if when you're starting off in this, you don't need to have session 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, clear for this, turn this, turn that. Don't do that. And because you're trying, especially if a student, you're sitting there trying to figure all this out, either writing it down or listening to it and getting everything. I still have some, like now, I still have some of those moments when I'll draw a blank and say again slowly, and do that.
So does it happen that happens to you guys too, where you get blocked?
Oh yeah, I mean I've come back and said I've told somebody, I said you need to say that again slowly, and
okay.
Why do I need to do that? And I said because I'm not going to let you kill yourself on my watch. That's why. Of course, I've gotten in a little trouble for that one, but one of the things that people forget is that we can't do it without y'all, and you can't do it without us. And as soon as people started understanding that, it makes everything a lot easier. As far as students go, a lot of times you can listen to how a student acts with the instructor in the airplane. If the instructor is kind of I'm going to sit here with a whip, you've already got a problem there. By the way, you probably wonder why I'm not a pilot.
Why are you not a pilot?
Because I don't have the touch.
The touch?
I don't have that touch.
The touch for what?
To be a pilot, I understand how it works. I understand airspace and altitude. I understand every bit of that. But when I touch the controls, I don't freeze. I have all the daintiness of a 9-pound sledgehammer. So that's what I mean by the touch. Now, my late father-in-law was a Navy fighter pilot, and he had the touch. He really did. I mean, you'd sit there and look. He used to fly the F-8, which was a kind of a beast of an airplane. It was a great fighter, but it was all hydraulics. So you had, you don't want to hear this war story.
Have you flown in a different or have you been in touch or in a different country? Have you heard about communications with tower in a different environment? Is it very different? Does it change a lot?
Sometimes it's real different. Like for instance, in Laos or Vietnam, it was very different.
You worked in Laos and Vietnam?
Well, I was usually a passenger for that but you'd hear some of the stuff comes. Yes, one of the things about a lot of things in Asia is that they'll you get a good Asian controller, you got gold, you really have gold. But a lot of times, the culture will sit there and tell you what they think you want to hear, and it takes forever to get that out of them. Once they do, you got really good controllers, and then you got the Germans who think they own everything, and it's like, okay,
in your very long career, is there anything that you wish that someone had told you when you were starting?
I wish that somebody had told me to, take it, take it easy, because the pilot will work with you, and 9 times out of 10 they don't. And one of the problems with air traffic control training, particularly when I started, it was not anything strange at all to have somebody take a strip key, a strip holder and smack you on the knuckles or throw something at you or something like that. Now I understand that that's kind of gone away, and to an extent, I'm all for that. For another extent, you still got a lot of hammerheads out there that you can't hit them from the airplane. But have either of you run across a controller that you wanted to get out of the plane and strangle?
I don't know if I'm allowed to say.
You can say,
Maybe, yeah, yeah.
look, everybody has their jerk moments, okay? And I know some guys, some of the old heads that they used to have problems with lady pilots, and there was one guy says, "Now, little lady," and one day she comes in, and she turns out she was one of the first of the Air Force, at least cargo pilots. She was a C-130 driver. And he comes in, has a long conversation with him and our boss, and he didn't call her little lady anymore.
Yeah.
Me, on the other hand, I had 5 sisters, so I kind of it to me it was never a good thing to belittle women pilots. Now, once in a great while, you'd run across one that would think they were special, and then you'd run across some people that were terrified of talking to you. Some controllers get a reputation for being kind of rude. Right.
Amazing, David. And just where were you active? Where were you working?
New Orleans, believe it or not, a little place called Macomb, Mississippi. Back to New Orleans, Alexandria, Louisiana, where we had the original A-10 outfit that used to come flying right through our airport. A place called DeRidder, which is over on the western part of the state. Then I finished my career in Washington, D.C. So, and you talk to pilots. That's another thing, too. When you talk about accents, you'd get these, you get some guys that sound like this. You know what I mean?
Sure do.
Then you get these New Yorkers who, I mean, they all sound like Donald Trump, which, it's pretty good if you're a Queens businessman, but it leaves something to be desired when you're on a radio.
Umberto, do you get a lot of accents where you fly? Because I would imagine that there would be tons of different people in that tower.
Well, we had Cajuns.
Mm-hmm.
So they sound like Frenchmen with a little bit of Spanish thrown in with it.
Mm-hmm.
Then you'd have guys.
I was wondering about Umberto, because where you fly, you must have a lot of nationalities there too, no?
Oh yeah, we used.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, we got Venice. I'm sorry. Shut up, Dave. Umberto's speaking. Okay.
These controllers, they don't let you get a word in, man.
Well, the only concern is that they just talk fast, but like specifically the accent, I haven't heard yet one, so they just talk fast. But yeah,
well, some guys do that,
mm-hmm.
and really seriously, save your ass and his by saying, "Please say again slowly."
Okay.
And if they don't do it, when you arrive, have a chat with the tower chief, or have a chat with the station chief, or whatever. Say, look, I asked for this. And if they're jerks about it, there's always another level you can go to. Remember, as students, you got to get, even student drivers, you had to give them a certain amount of leeway, because you're learning.
Yeah.
I mean, I barely learned how to tie my shoes. It's amazing.
We'll give you leeway. Don't worry. So, David, thank you so much for your time. David Bruton, air traffic controller for many, many years in the States, in Louisiana, in Washington. Really, thank you for helping us answer our questions and for humanizing an air traffic controller. You see, they're the real people, you know, and it's okay to make mistakes. And
it is
I
okay to
really
make mistakes.
appreciate it. Thank you.
And I'll tell you what, it's much better to make all your mistakes at the beginning when you're learning, because sometimes that's the way you learn the best. I will tell you this: I had a Pilatus Porter come flying down from somewhere in Pennsylvania, and they were flying right along the Appalachian Mountains, because they go up, you know, the Smokies and the Appalachians and all that. And they were from Venezuela. None of these guys apparently understood English. And I'm trying to tell them that they needed to pick a different route than the one they were on, or put their airplane down, more importantly, because they're getting ready to fly into, you know, level 3 and up thunderstorms. And we get bad ones in the South. I mean, we really do. And these guys started sounding like they were terrified. And I said, you know, what's your present position? I don't know. Okay. Where did you depart from and when? Well, okay, I did this. And what is your heading now? Blah. So I can pretty much find you and get you to someplace to land. They said, well, we can't land. And I thought to myself, tomorrow morning I'll be reading about you in the paper, and I'm going to, by 10 minutes after I read about you in the paper, I'm going to be talking to an inspector about why I didn't get you down. Anyway, so I've run into that. You run into people that start thinking they're better than they are, and that's on both sides of the radio. Because I run into that, you know, I listened to a guy I used to work with who just thought he was God's gift to air traffic, and after he'd managed to not exactly do right by a particular pilot, that became a problem. Then we've had a couple of things where you had guy was telling everybody that he knew his GPS and he was going to take a direct flight. And they're saying, no, you know, what's your altitude? And the altitude was lower than the mountains that he was trying to fly through. So, you know, they kept telling him, turn left heading such and such, maintain your altitude, maintain your distance, and suggest that you land such and such. They'd already picked out the place for him to land with a 24-hour FBO and all that kind of thing. He says, no, I got my GPS. I can get there. It'll take me direct. It took him direct, all right.
Of GPS and their limitations, what is the best tool you think for an air traffic controller or for a student pilot or a pilot to either practice, understand, or communications on your job? What's the best tool, resource?
Best resource. There's I don't know what book you use in Spain, but for our tower and center controllers, we use the 711065, and for all else is the 7110.10. So it tells you what we're going to say to you, or it tells you what, you know, the terms we're going to use. So learn some of that, and learn whatever's native, you know, excuse me, learn whatever you guys have to do in Spain. Now, again, we all know that the international language of air traffic is English. So, you know, practice things that you've had problems saying, or practice things that you've had problems understanding. All right. You know.
Wonderful. Amazing.
You know,
David, I won't take much more of your time. You've been already so generous with us. Thank you so much.
Only thing I have to do is move a car so the trucks don't hit it.
Yeah, don't let them hit your car. Go directly.
I'll get it in a minute, because like I said, the guy next door is demolishing his old garage. He's building an apartment for his daughter who has some problems, and that's been fine. I understand they're going to make noise, but my God, I'll tell you what, a couple times I thought they're going to blast me out of the house.
Go put your foot down, and thank you again, and we'll be in touch. I'll contact you.
Thank you for your time, David.
If there's anything you guys need, if I don't know the answer, I'll find the answer. That's another thing too. If you don't know the answer, you know, don't try to find it while you're in the air. Because if you're sitting and looking around, hey, controller, hey, other guy in the other airplane, listen, I'm busy. I'm trying to find my stuff.
Well, I'll definitely take that advice. Thank you.
Well, I'm tickled to death to be able to help you. I hope I've been of some help.
We 100%, David. You've been super helpful. It's again, it's a privilege to have a retired ATC controller with us, and giving us all these amazing tips and putting a human face to a voice. Thank you so much.
Oh no, it's a total pleasure for me, and you know, it's one of those kind. By the way, if you notice, the hand has nothing to do with the air traffic except falling down a flight of stairs. And you will discover that we generally run on a whole lot of coffee.
Take care of yourself, okay? We'll be in touch.
All right, thanks a lot, and thanks for your time.
Thank
Umberto,
you.
it was a pleasure.
We'll be in
Thanks
touch,
for
David.
coming.
Thank you. Thanks again. Bye.